Captain Lee Dong-wook stared out the window of his ship at the massive space station floating in the darkness. Axiom Prime was the biggest trading post in the galaxy. Ships from hundreds of different worlds came here to make deals and sign contracts. Today, Lee was here for the most important meeting in human history. His ship, the Harmony's Edge, was small compared to the alien vessels docked nearby. Some were as big as cities, covered in strange lights, and made from materials that humans had never seen before. Lee felt nervous as he watched them. Humans were still new to space travel compared to these ancient civilizations. "Captain, we're getting a message from the Velthari ship," said Communications Officer Lim Nari from her station. Her voice was calm, but Lee could hear the excitement underneath. This meeting could change everything for humanity. Lee straightened his uniform and walked to the bridge's center. "Put it through." The main screen flickered and showed a tall, thin alien with blue-gray skin and 4 arms. This was Ambassador Theximara of the Velthari Confederation. The alien's large black eyes seemed to study Lee for a moment before it spoke. "Captain Lee Dong-wook, welcome to Axiom Prime. We are very excited to meet with your people today. Please bring your negotiation team to Docking Bay 7. We have much to discuss." The connection ended and Lee turned to his crew. Ambassador Park So-young was already gathering her files and data tablets. She had been Earth's top diplomat for over 20 years and had negotiated with dozens of alien species. If anyone could handle this meeting, it was her. "Are you ready for this?" Lee asked her. Park So-young smiled. "I've been preparing for this moment my entire career. The Velthari don't make offers like this to just anyone. This could be humanity's big break." Engineer Kim Tae-hyun looked up from his console. "I still don't understand why they chose us. There are thousands of other species in the galaxy. Many of them have better technology and more experience with mining operations." Dr. Yoon Ji-hai, the ship's expert on alien biology, nodded in agreement. The Velthari are known for being very careful with their business deals. They usually only work with species they've known for centuries. Humans have only been in space for 50 years. Lee had the same concerns, but he didn't want to sound negative. "Maybe that's exactly why they want to work with us. We're fresh, eager to learn, and we don't have any old conflicts with other species." The team gathered their equipment and headed to the docking bay. As they walked through the station's corridors, Lee was amazed by the diversity of alien life around them. Creatures with tentacles, beings made of what looked like living crystal, and robots that might have been alive, all of them going about their business in this incredible melting pot of galactic civilization. Docking Bay 7 was enormous. The Velthari ship filled most of the space, its smooth silver surface covered in glowing symbols that seemed to move and change as they watched. A ramp extended from the ship, and Ambassador Theximara appeared at the top, flanked by 2 other aliens. "Welcome, friends from Earth," Theximara said as the humans approached. Its voice was melodious, almost musical. "Please come aboard our vessel. We have prepared a presentation that will change your world forever." The inside of the ship was just as impressive as the outside. The walls seemed to be made of some kind of living metal that responded to touch. Soft lights followed them as they walked, and the air smelled like flowers Lee had never encountered. They were led to a large room with a circular table in the center. Holographic displays showed star maps, mineral charts, and mathematical equations that made Lee's head spin. Theximara gestured for them to sit. "Let me tell you about the Kepler 442 system," the alien began. The room darkened, and a 3-dimensional model of a solar system appeared above the table. "This system contains the largest deposits of quantum crystals we have ever discovered. These crystals are essential for faster-than-light travel. Currently, they are very rare and expensive. The species that controls them controls galactic trade." Park So-young leaned forward. "And you're offering this to humanity? What's the catch?" Theximara made a sound that might have been laughter. "Direct. I like that about humans. There is no catch, as you say. We are offering exclusive mining rights to this system. You would become the galaxy's primary supplier of quantum crystals. The profits would be beyond your imagination." Dr. Yoon Ji-hai studied the data streaming across the displays. These geological surveys show incredible mineral density. If this is accurate, Humanity could become one of the richest civilizations in the galaxy within a decade. It is accurate, Texamara assured her. We have spent years studying this system. We even have the mining equipment ready to give you. All we ask is for a small percentage of the profits and the right to purchase crystals at a discount. Engineer Kim Tae-hyun frowned. Why aren't you mining it yourselves? With deposits this rich, you could make enormous profits. We are an old species, Texamara replied smoothly. We have many mining operations already. This system is too far from our space to manage efficiently. But for humanity, it would be perfect. Close to your trade routes, easy to defend, and with enough resources to supply your expansion for thousands of years. Lee felt his heart racing. This was beyond anything humanity had dreamed possible. Earth was still recovering from the resource wars of the previous century. Most human colonies struggled to find enough materials for basic needs. This offer could solve all of those problems. But something nagged at him. This seems too good to be true. What do other species think about humanity suddenly controlling such valuable resources? Some may be jealous, Texamara admitted. But that is the nature of business. We have chosen humanity because we believe you have the qualities needed for this responsibility. You are honest, hardworking, and you keep your promises. These are rare traits in the galaxy. The presentation continued for hours. The Velthari showed detailed plans for mining operations, transport networks, and security systems. They had thought of everything. The initial investment from Earth would be substantial, about 60% of the colonial budget, but the returns would be incredible. Ambassador Park So-young asked hundreds of questions, examining every detail of the contract. The terms seemed fair, even generous. Humanity would have complete control over the mining operations, with the Velthari only taking a small percentage and providing technical support when needed. As the meeting ended, Texamara stood and extended one of its 4 hands to Lee. Captain, we hope humanity will accept this offer. We believe this partnership will be the beginning of a new golden age for your species. Lee shook the alien's hand, feeling the cool, smooth skin against his own. We need to discuss this with Earth government, but I can tell you that we're very interested. Of course, take all the time you need. But please do not take too long. Opportunities like this do not come often. On the journey back to Earth, the crew was buzzing with excitement. The potential was incredible. Humanity could leap from a minor species struggling to establish colonies to a major galactic power almost overnight. But Lee couldn't shake his uneasiness. In his 20 years of military service, he had learned to trust his instincts. And right now, those instincts were telling him that something was wrong with this perfect opportunity. 3 weeks later, the contracts were signed in a ceremony broadcast across human space. Earth's leaders couldn't resist the chance to secure humanity's future. As Lee watched Ambassador Park So-young put her signature on the documents, he hoped his worries were just paranoia. He was about to discover how wrong he was. 3 years had passed since humanity signed the deal with the Velthari, and Choi Min-ho could hardly believe how much his life had changed. As the colony administrator for the Kepler 442 mining operations, he oversaw the most successful human project in history. The mining colonies were producing quantum crystals faster than anyone had expected. Min-ho stood on the observation deck of Mining Station Alpha, watching the massive extraction machines work below. The machines were gifts from the Velthari, enormous devices that could dig through solid rock like it was sand. They worked day and night pulling precious crystals from the planet's crust. Administrator, the daily production reports are ready, said his assistant, bringing him a data tablet. Min-ho smiled as he read the numbers. They were mining 3 times more crystals than the original projections had promised. Earth was getting rich beyond their wildest dreams. The colonies themselves had grown into small cities. Over 2 million humans now lived in the Kepler system, working in the mines, running support services, or managing the transport ships that carried crystals back to Earth and other human worlds. Schools, hospitals, entertainment centers, and parks had been built. Children were being born who would grow up thinking that incredible wealth was normal for humanity. But not everyone was completely happy. Hansu Bin, the chief geologist for the mining operations, had been asking uncomfortable questions lately. She walked into Minho's office that morning with a worried expression on her face. "We need to talk," she said, closing the door behind her. "I've been studying the original Velthari geological surveys and something doesn't make sense." Minho looked up from his reports. "What do you mean?" "The crystals are there just like they said they would be. We're exceeding all expectations." Han Subin sat down and pulled out her own tablet. "That's exactly the problem. Look at these numbers. The Velthari said there would be approximately 50 million tons of quantum crystals in this system. We've already mined 60 million tons and we're barely scratched the surface." "That's good news, isn't it?" Minho asked. "More crystals mean more profits. But where did the extra crystals come from?" Han Subin insisted. "I've been a geologist for 15 years. I know how these deposits form. They take millions of years to develop naturally. But the distribution pattern here is all wrong. It's too perfect, too organized." Minho frowned. He had always trusted Han Subin's expertise. She had discovered 3 new mining sites in the past year alone. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm not sure yet, but I want permission to do deeper studies. I need to examine the crystal formation patterns more carefully." Before Minho could answer, his communication system beeped. Security Chief Kang Do-hyun was calling from the Orbital Defense Station. "Administrator, we have another one of those survey ships on the edge of the system," Kang Do-hyun reported. "Third one this month." Minho activated the video link. Kang Do-hyun appeared on screen, his face serious. The security chief was a former military officer who had served on the frontier colonies before coming to Kepler 442. He was good at spotting potential threats. "Which species this time?" Minho asked. "Zephyrian, according to their identification codes. They're claiming it's a routine scientific survey, but they're spending a lot of time studying our mining operations. They keep their distance, but their sensors are definitely pointed at us." This had been happening more often lately. Ships from various alien species would enter the system, claim they were doing scientific research, and spend days observing the human colonies. It was legal under galactic law, but it made Minho nervous. "Have you tried contacting them?" "They respond to basic communications but won't engage in conversation. Same pattern as the others. They watch us for a few days, then leave." Han Subin looked thoughtful. "You know, this might be connected to what I've been researching. All these aliens suddenly interested in our operations right when I'm finding strange things about the crystal deposits, communications." Officer Lim Nari had been transferred to the colonies 6 months ago to upgrade their communication systems. She had been working on improving their long-range sensors and had been intercepting more alien communications than usual. That evening, she knocked on Minho's door with an urgent expression. "Sir, I think you need to hear this." She played a recording of an encrypted alien transmission that her equipment had intercepted. The voices were speaking in Galactic Standard, the common language used for trade, but they were trying to disguise their words. "The human situation is proceeding as planned," one voice said. "Timeline acceleration is ahead of schedule." "Good," replied another voice. "The betting pools are growing larger every day. Some are wagering the humans will figure it out early. Others think they'll remain ignorant until the end. What about the observers? Are they maintaining proper distance?" "Yes, but some are getting eager. The Zephyrians almost got too close last week. We had to remind them that premature exposure would ruin everything." The recording ended, leaving Minho's office in silence. The 3 humans looked at each other with growing alarm. "Betting pools?" Minho whispered. "What are they betting on?" Lim Nari shook her head. "I don't know, but I've been intercepting similar fragments for weeks. There are dozens of species involved in whatever this is. They're all talking about humans and some kind of timeline." Han Subin stood up suddenly. "I need to do those geological tests immediately. This isn't just about crystal formations anymore." Over the next few weeks, the 3 of them worked together in secret. Han Subin conducted deep geological surveys while Lim Nari monitored alien communications, and Kang Do-hyun tracked the observer ships. What they found was increasingly disturbing. Han Subin's tests revealed that the quantum crystals had a strange internal structure. Under high-powered microscopes, she could see tiny imperfections that formed regular patterns. Natural crystals never formed with such geometric precision. "These aren't natural," she told the others during a private meeting. "Someone made these crystals and placed them here." Lim Nari had been having more success with the alien communications. Her improved equipment was picking up more fragments, and she was starting to understand the scope of whatever was happening. There are at least 17 different species involved in this conspiracy, she reported. They're coordinating their observations and sharing information about our operations. And the betting I mentioned? They're betting on when something bad will happen to us. Kang Do-hyun had been tracking the observer ships more carefully. The pattern is clear now. They're not just watching randomly. They're studying our defensive capabilities, our population centers, and our evacuation routes. It's like they're preparing for some kind of attack. Minho felt sick to his stomach. We need to contact Earth immediately. But Lim Nari held up her hand. Wait, I intercepted something else yesterday. One of the alien commanders was complaining about communication security. He said something about keeping the harvest secret until the activation date. What if they're monitoring our communications too? The possibility that their messages to Earth might be intercepted made them all pause. They needed more information before they could risk sending a warning. Han Subin continued her geological research, focusing on the crystal's internal structure. What she discovered a week later made her blood run cold. The crystals contained microscopic devices, so small they could only be seen with the most advanced scanning equipment. These devices were connected to each other through quantum entanglement, forming a network that spread throughout every crystal in the system. It's a trigger system, she explained to the others. All of these crystals are connected. If someone activates the right signal, something will happen to all of them simultaneously. Lim Nari had intercepted more communications, and the pieces were starting to come together. I heard them mention a 5-year timeline yesterday. They said Phase 1 was almost complete and Phase 2 would begin soon. Kang Do-hyun did some quick math. We've been mining here for 3 years and 4 months. If their timeline is 5 years total, that gives us about 8 months before whatever they're planning happens. The three of them stared at each other in growing horror. Millions of humans lived in the Kepler system now. Families, children, entire communities that had been built on what they thought was humanity's bright future. We have to find out what they're really planning, Minho said, and we have to do it without letting them know that we know. Han Subin nodded grimly. I'll keep studying the crystals. Maybe I can figure out what the trigger system is designed to do. I'll monitor more communications, Lim Nari added, and I'll see if I can break their encryption codes. I'll prepare contingency plans, Kang Do-hyun said. If we need to evacuate, we'll need to do it quickly and quietly. As they left the meeting, Minho couldn't help but think about all the families living happily in the colonies below. Children playing in parks built with crystal profits, couples planning weddings, elderly people enjoying retirement in what they thought was humanity's golden age. None of them knew that their prosperity had been a trap from the very beginning. And Minho was beginning to suspect that the trap was about to spring. Intelligence Director Seo Jun-seok had seen many terrible things during his 25 years of service, but nothing had prepared him for what was sitting on his desk. The emergency report from the Kepler 442 colonies had arrived through the most secure channels possible, and its contents made him feel physically sick. He sat in his office in the Earth Intelligence Headquarters, reading the report for the 3rd time. Han Subin's geological analysis, Lim Nari's intercepted communications, and Kang Do-hyun's observations all painted the same horrifying picture. Humanity had been deceived on a scale that was almost impossible to believe. Sir, Dr. Ryo Eunji is here to see you, his assistant announced through the intercom. Send her in. Immediately, Dr. Ryu Eunji was Earth's top physicist and one of the few people who truly understood quantum crystal technology. She had been studying samples from Kepler 442 for the past week, trying to understand Han Subin's findings. Her face was pale as she entered the office. Director, we have a problem, she said without preamble. The crystals from Kepler 442 aren't just artificial. They're bombs. Seo Jun-seok felt his heart skip a beat. Explain. Dr. Ryu Eunji sat down and pulled out a holographic projector. A 3-dimensional image of a quantum crystal appeared in the air between them. Look at this internal structure. These microscopic devices aren't just connected to each other. They're designed to destabilize the quantum matrix that holds the crystals together. She manipulated the image, zooming in on the tiny mechanisms hidden inside the crystal. When activated, these devices will cause a cascade failure. Each crystal will explode with the force of a small nuclear weapon. But here's the worst part. They're all quantum entangled. If one goes off, they all go off simultaneously. How many crystals are we talking about? Seo Jun-seok asked, though he dreaded the answer. We've mined over 60 million tons of crystals from that system. We've spread them throughout human space and on ships and power plants and communication systems, even in jewelry. If they all explode at the same time, it would destroy every major human installation in the galaxy. Seo Jun-seok stood up and walked to his window, looking out at the city below. Millions of people going about their daily lives completely unaware that their entire civilization was sitting on top of a massive bomb. How long do we have? Based on the intercepted communications, I estimate about 7 months before they activate the system. But Director, there's something else. I've been analyzing the quantum signature of these devices. This isn't the first time this has been done. Dr. Ryu Yunji changed the holographic display to show a complex mathematical equation. I've been comparing the quantum patterns with historical data from other civilizations. I found matches with the Kaloran Empire, the Draxian Commonwealth, and the Nexus Federation. Seo Jun-seok turned back to face her. I don't recognize those names. That's because they don't exist anymore. They were all destroyed in the past 1,000 years. All of them had periods of sudden prosperity followed by complete disappearance. And according to the galactic databases, all of them had exclusive mining rights to newly discovered quantum crystal deposits shortly before they vanished. The implications hit Seo Jun-seok like a physical blow. You're saying this has happened before? Multiple times? I think we're looking at a pattern of systematic genocide. Species are chosen, given fake prosperity through crystal mining, then destroyed when the crystals are activated. Based on the historical records, it happens every few centuries. A soft knock interrupted their conversation. Diplomat Hwang Kyung-min entered the office, his face grim. He had been Earth's liaison to the Galactic Trade Consortium for over a decade, and knew the political landscape better than anyone. Director, I have information about the conspiracy. You're not going to like it. Seo Jun-seok gestured for him to continue. At this point, he wasn't sure anything could make the situation worse. I've been carefully reaching out to some of my alien contacts, trying to gather information without raising suspicions. What I've learned is that this isn't just a conspiracy between a few species. It's a galaxy-wide entertainment industry. Hwang Kyung-min activated his own holographic display, showing a network diagram with connections between dozens of alien civilizations. They call it the Harvest Protocol. Every few centuries, they select a species that shows promise but isn't yet powerful enough to defend itself. They manipulate them into a position of apparent prosperity, then destroy them for entertainment. Entertainment? Dr. Ryu Yunji asked in horror. There are betting pools across the galaxy. Aliens wager on how long it will take the target species to discover the truth, how they will react when they find out, and how spectacular their destruction will be. The current betting pool on humanity has reached over 1 trillion galactic credits. Seo Jun-seok sat down heavily in his chair. How many species are involved? At least 47 that I can confirm, but probably more. This includes some of the oldest and most respected civilizations in the galaxy. The Ethereal Council, the Crystal Masters, even the Peaceful Harmony Collective. They're all participants. And the Velthari? They're just the front operation. They specialize in making the initial contact and setting up the crystal mining operations. But the real organizers are a group called the Entertainment Syndicate. They're the ones who control the betting pools and manage the timing of each harvest. Dr. Ryu Yunji was studying her data tablets. According to my analysis, the crystal cascade is scheduled to begin in exactly 6 months and 12 days. They've probably been planning this for decades. Hwang Kyung-min nodded. The betting suggests that most aliens expect humanity to panic when we discover the truth. They're wagering on whether we'll try to flee, beg for mercy, or fight hopelessly against impossible odds. None of them seem to think we might actually have a chance to survive. Do we? Seo Jun-seok asked. Have a chance, I mean. The room fell silent as all three of them considered the question. They were facing a conspiracy that included dozens of advanced civilizations, some of which had been spacefaring for thousands of years before humans had even invented writing. The crystals were already distributed throughout human space, making it impossible to simply remove them, and they had less than 7 months to find a solution. Director Dr. Ryu Yunji said slowly, "There might be a way. The quantum entanglement that connects all the crystals works both ways. If we can reverse engineer the activation signal, we might be able to send a deactivation signal instead. That would require us to figure out technology that took these aliens centuries to develop." Hwang Kyung-min pointed out. "Not necessarily," she replied. "We don't need to understand how they made it. We just need to understand how to break it. Sometimes destruction is easier than creation. Seo Jun-seok felt a spark of hope for the first time in days. What do you need? Time, resources, and absolute secrecy. If they realize we know about the crystals, they might activate them early. And Director, there's something else we need to consider. Even if we can deactivate the crystals, we'll still be dealing with dozens of hostile alien civilizations who won't be happy that their entertainment was spoiled. Admiral Bae Won-shik chose that moment to enter the office. Earth's highest-ranking military officer had been briefed on the situation and had come to discuss defense preparations. His face was like stone as he spoke. Director, I've been reviewing our military capabilities. If we assume that every alien species in the conspiracy becomes openly hostile after their plan fails, we're looking at a war against most of the galaxy. Can we win such a war? Seo Jun-seok asked. Admiral Bae Won-shik was quiet for a long moment. Not through conventional military action. But Director, I've been thinking about this differently. These aliens have made one critical mistake, which is, they think they know how humans will react to this situation. Their betting pools, their entertainment industry, their whole plan is based on the assumption that we'll behave predictably when faced with extinction. Seo Jun-seok began to understand where the Admiral was going. You're suggesting we don't behave predictably? I'm suggesting we do something they've never seen before in all their centuries of running these harvest protocols. Instead of panicking, fleeing, or fighting hopelessly, what if we turn their own game against them? Dr. Ryu Yunji looked up from her calculations. Admiral, are you talking about deception? Making them think their plan is working while we prepare our own response? Exactly. They're so confident in their superiority that they're not even trying to hide their activities from us anymore. They think we're primitive, predictable, and helpless. What if we prove them wrong on all three counts? Hwang Kyung-min smiled grimly.
The entire galaxy is watching humanity, expecting us to provide entertainment through our destruction.
What if we give them a different kind of show entirely? As the four humans sat in the office, discussing plans that would determine the fate of their entire species, Seo Jun-seok realized something important. The aliens had made their biggest mistake, not in underestimating human technology or military capabilities, but in underestimating human psychology. They thought they understood how humans would react to betrayal and the threat of extinction. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Gentlemen, Dr. Ryu, Seo Jun-seok said, I think it's time we taught the galaxy. Strategic Coordinator. Oh Chang-min had never worked on a project this complex or important before. Sitting in the secret command center deep beneath Earth's capital, he studied the massive holographic display that showed the current positions of every human ship, colony, and installation in the galaxy. In 5 months, if their plan failed, all of it would be destroyed. Operation Lazarus is our only chance, he said to the assembled team of specialists. We have to make the aliens believe their plan is working perfectly while we prepare our counterattack. The plan was incredibly ambitious. Humanity would fake its own panic and confusion while secretly evacuating the Kepler colonies and preparing for war. They had to do all of this without letting any of the dozens of alien observer ships detect what was really happening. Tech specialist Song Hae-in looked up from her computer workstation. The hardest part will be the fake sensor data. We need to make it look like the colonies are still fully populated while we're actually moving people out. I've been working on holographic projectors that can create false heat signatures and communication traffic. She activated a small device on her desk, and suddenly there appeared to be twice as many people in the room. The holograms moved naturally, even seemed to be breathing. If we place these throughout the colonies, the alien sensors will detect normal population levels even after we've evacuated. Infiltration agent Ko Woo-jin had perhaps the most dangerous job of all. He would pose as a panicking human seeking help from alien governments, while actually gathering intelligence on their plans and capabilities. I've already made contact with 3 different alien intelligence networks, he reported. They're so confident that humans are helpless that they're willing to share information with me, thinking I'm just a desperate survivor looking for a way to save my family. I've learned the locations of their main command centers and betting coordination stations. Fleet Commander Jang Mi-kyung spread out a star chart on the table. While everyone thinks we're panicking, we'll be moving our military assets into position. The aliens are so focused on the Kepler system that they're not paying attention to our fleet movements elsewhere. She pointed to various locations on the star chart. We'll position attack groups near the homeworld of every species involved in the conspiracy. Not to attack immediately, but to be ready when the time comes. Oh Changmin nodded approvingly. The key to this operation is timing. We have to maintain the deception right up until the moment the aliens try to activate their crystal cascade. Then we turn the tables on them. The next few months were a masterclass in human coordination and deception. Song Hayan's holographic systems worked perfectly, creating the illusion that the Kepler colonies were still thriving while in reality, millions of people were being quietly evacuated through hidden routes. The evacuation itself was an incredible feat of organization. Transport ships disguised as routine supply vessels carried families away from the colonies in small groups. The evacuees were relocated to hidden facilities on remote worlds that weren't on any galactic maps. Ko Wu-jin's infiltration work provided valuable intelligence about alien plans. Posing as different panicked humans, he contacted alien governments throughout the galaxy, each time learning more about their involvement in the conspiracy. The betting pools are getting massive, he reported during one of his secret communications with Earth. Some aliens are wagering their entire fortunes on the outcome. They're treating this like the greatest entertainment event in galactic history. But perhaps the most important part of the plan was what Dr. Ryu Yunji was doing with the quantum crystals. Instead of trying to deactivate them, she had found a way to reverse engineer them and turn them into weapons. If we can't prevent the cascade, we'll control it, she explained to the team. I've figured out how to modify the activation signal. Instead of just exploding randomly, we can direct the energy from the crystal explosions. She showed them a simulation of her plan. When the aliens send their activation signal, our modified crystals will intercept it and redirect the explosive energy toward predetermined targets. We'll turn their weapon against them. Song Hayan was amazed by the technical complexity. You're talking about coordinating the simultaneous explosion of millions of crystals across the galaxy, with each explosion precisely targeted. That level of quantum manipulation is beyond anything humans have ever attempted. We're not just humans anymore, Dr. Ryu Yunji replied grimly. We're humans with nothing left to lose. That changes everything. As the final month approached, the alien observer ships around the Kepler system began reporting exactly what they expected to see. The holographic sensors showed humans panicking, running around frantically, and sending desperate messages to Earth begging for help. The alien betting pools reached record levels as gamblers wagered on how spectacular humanity's final moments would be. Some bet that humans would try to flee the system, others that they would beg the aliens for mercy, and a few that they would fight hopelessly against impossible odds. None of them bet on what actually happened. Fleet Commander Zhang Mikyung's ships had been moving into position for months, traveling on routes that avoided alien patrol areas. By the time the final countdown began, there was a human battle group within striking distance of every major alien homeworld involved in the conspiracy. All units are in position, she reported to Oh Changmin. We've managed to deploy our forces without triggering any alien defensive systems. They're so focused on the show in Kepler that they haven't noticed us. Preparing our own surprise, Ko Wu-jin had completed his infiltration mission and was back on Earth with a treasure trove of intelligence about alien command structures, communication protocols, and defensive capabilities. Their command centers are all linked together for coordinating the betting and entertainment broadcast, he reported. They plan to show the destruction of humanity to the entire galaxy in real time. But those same communication links will work to our advantage. The final week arrived and the aliens began their final preparations. Massive viewing platforms were positioned around the galaxy, so that millions of alien spectators could watch humanity's destruction. The entertainment networks prepared for the biggest broadcast in galactic history.